Roll Club is devoted to celebrating the dynamic Jiu-Jitsu community worldwide. Find out more at ROLLCLUB.CA. Today, we are joined by fellow Canadian Dante Leon, regarded as one of the sport's most well-rounded submission hunters. Dante is a two-time IBJJF Nogi World Champion who has had an absolutely stellar 24, with an impressive run through the ADCC Absolute Division that saw him beat ADCC World Champions Mika Gaval and Giancarlo Bodoni on the way to a well-earned bronze. Earlier this month, he made his one championship debut at One Fight Night 26, where a clinical performance was capped off with a tremendous triangle armbar and a $50,000.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess, might as well start at the beginning. Can you describe for us your jiu-jitsu journey and sort of what made you fall in love with the sport?
Yeah, martial arts as far as like MMA, more so MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing was kind of what I first took interest to. And then I played hockey growing up. So that kind of has a little bit of a combat feel to it, I guess, especially when you were a kid and you watch hockey. So those were the kind of sports I liked the most. And at a time in my life when I was kind of not steering away from hockey, but not doing it as intensely or as much as I did in my younger years, as around 11 years old, I kind of decided I didn't want to do anything for the spring of that year. I didn't want to play spring hockey. I didn't want to do like a summer league or anything. So, my mom gave me some ideas of things to do that I didn't really like. So I went to my dad and I was like, I want to do something that's not, golf or piano lessons. So he said, "You want to do jiu-jitsu?" I said, "Sure." Didn't really think anything of it. Kind of knew a little bit about it, knew enough about it to think that maybe I would like it. But then once I kind of did my first class, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. Really, is like my desire to train kept growing. And then after my first competition, I think is when I fell in love with it. Took a liking to it, but I was also pretty good at it. I wasn't like this ringer. I wasn't any kind of like talent without training or anything. I had to still work hard, but I took to it pretty well. And then competing, I loved that. I loved competing. I loved being in the venue, everything about it. I still love it to this day. And that's what I think just pushed it to the next level and kept my love for the sport growing.
That's awesome. Do you remember the first time you stepped on the mats, either in competition or for that first class?
Yeah, my first class was right before I turned 12. And then I competed about 10 months after I first started, maybe less than that. And I trained about twice a week because I still played hockey. So with practices and all of that stuff, yeah, it was kind of tough to train more than that. But then I had 2 or 3 weeks where I didn't have any hockey practices, tournaments, season was over. So I buckled down, trained like 3 or 4 times a week for those next couple weeks to, cram before a tournament. And then I went and competed and then I did really well. And then I literally never played hockey again after that.
It was a total turning point. Just
yeah,
cut off cold turkey.
Pretty
That's
well,
awesome.
yeah.
I think you're almost like the invert Canadian story, right? A lot of hockey players will come after their hockey career, maybe check out jiu-jitsu, but you went beforehand, which is awesome, especially for us being Canadian. In that early stage of your career, did you remember any biggest challenges or things that maybe stopped you along the way? Maybe did you reconsider the path you're on or anything like that?
Not really. As a kid, it was pretty hard to find anything that was really that bad. I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about transportation. Like mom or dad could always take me, training was always available. Tournaments were really always available. It was all there for me. All I had to do was train and, work hard, but it was easy to do that. I really liked doing it. It was an enjoyable thing. Losing is always kind of like sucks, but I mean, it's part of it. You kind of learn how to lose when you play sports. I think it's important to play sports when you're growing up. A lot of people just like never play sports and do jiu-jitsu and then they can't handle anything. They get like crushed by a defeat or feeling like they're insignificant because they didn't win, but I already dealt with a lot of those feelings playing hockey, even though it's not an individual sport. So I think I was never just like bogged down too much by losing a tournament or not performing well.
You didn't have to have that big moment of ego death that all hobbyists like myself have as they join in their 30s. But
yeah, for sure.
One of the dreams I imagine of most young competitors and anybody doing the sport is that moment where you're able to sort of identify yourself as a pro, that, you're doing this and you can make a living off of it, whether it be through gyms or just competition solely. Do you remember what that moment was like for you, if you've reached that moment?
Say it one more time, as far as what?
Is that turning point where you were able to say, like, I'm a professional jiu-jitsu player now, that this is how I make my living? Do you remember when
Right.
that moment was, that transition?
Yeah, so as far as to like make my living off of just doing jujitsu, it wasn't really that long ago, to be honest. I mean, it was
Mhm.
only probably like 20 once I started to get a lot of matches. And then that, along with the success of my business, with as long as with owning a gym, those combined really kind of took off. And then I could truly say that I was making a living out of jujitsu because I could like pay my bills and I wasn't, taking away from jujitsu competition to build the gym or vice versa. So, like, that was when everything really started to work in unison and it all kind of show that it worked out and it was growing along with me and my career. But I first said that I wanted to be a professional athlete when I was 15. I won hands juvenile one. And then I told my parents, like, this is what I want to do. And I tried to tell them it then because in my eyes, I had like a major title that I could say,
Yeah.
like, hey, I won this. Like, I am good. You know what I mean? Even though they probably already figured or were confident that I could do that. That was like my way to have like something there to say like, yeah, I want to do this. So
But much easier.
obviously it was never like, okay, you want to do this, like you can do it kind of thing. Like there were still ground rules. You still had to finish high school. You still had to like not be a, you still had to like not drag your ass and not try in school or in other things. But they were always supportive of it. They always pushed for it, believed in it. So once it all clicked, once I like, acquired a black belt world title and started to check all the boxes of like what it means to be one of the best in the world, what it means to have success going from, blue to black belt, then, they were there the whole way.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, it's much easier to convince people when you've got a bit of hardware around the
Yeah.
belt or in your hand. Moving on to your current professional career, what attracted you to One Championship's submission grappling division? Like, what drew you to it?
There's a lot of things about one. After being there, I probably have a lot more to give. When I first took interest in one, it was because of who was there. Like the best guys were there. It's not the biggest divisions. They're not necessarily the deepest divisions, but they're smaller divisions. And specifically in the 170 and 185 pound class, which is around where I frequent competing, more so the 170. But the best guys were there, like Caden Tyre there, Tommy's there. There were a bunch of other guys over there, and even really good guys who were competing or winning titles in other events were coming over to challenge for like the one title, and then they didn't win. You know what I mean? Like none of those guys who have just like come over thinking they can take a belt have won or been successful. So that has to prove something that, no matter what, no matter where we're pulling these people from, the champions, the people that one originally thought would be, worthy champions are still here and still there. So this is clearly where the best guys are. It's clearly where the like most dense divisions are. There's not really a chance to get bad grapplers or easy matchups in one FC. So, that combined with everything that I know now, being in front of Asian crowd is amazing. We don't have much of a chance in our sport coming from where we come from to get in front of that region of the world. That's so many people over there. I don't think people understand how many fight fans, how many people are hungry and need to see high level martial arts. I mean, they might not have seen such high level jujitsu before. It's important that we get the right guys over there to that region of the world. So, now that I see these things firsthand after being there in December, or after being there earlier this month,
Yeah.
Those things give me kind of a new perspective. But my original reason was just because how tough everybody is over there, what the talent pool is like.
Nice. And relatedly, to that experience, the spectacle and what the performances that you've been able to perform for this incredible fan base. What can fans expect when you step on the mats on January 10th? Not very long from now, it seems. For One Fight Night 27.
Well, I was just there and I had a great performance and everything went very well. I know that Tommy will be a tougher challenge, but I see myself coming into this match just as confident, if not more confident from a personal side. I've already been there. I have a good lay of the land. I have experience in the event. I'm going back to the exact same venue. So there will not be any kind of gaps that would be there. I know, we have our beliefs on who's a better grappler or not. I clearly think I'm a better grappler and a good matchup for Tommy, but There's not a lot of gaps that are there. There's not an experience gap really there. There's not a, my first night being there going against somebody. The playing field is really leveled out on all levels that might have not been before if he was my first match. So I think it's everything that can help in my favor.
That's awesome. And just to get a little bit jujitsu nerdy here at the end, and then we'll go into a quick rapid fire if we've got time. But one of the things I find fascinating when doing research on you and just watching your career is that you're often referred to as like a well-rounded competitor, well-rounded grappler. But if you had to consider one part or pick one part of your game, what would you think of it as your best feature, let's say?
Honestly, my best feature would probably be my guard. I got to show more of it at ADCC in the open class, but it's something that of all the things that I get described as, I never am described as a guard player and that's able to invert so well and have great guard retention. I think because of my build and because a lot of my matches, people tend to say like I'm an aggressive top player, like, hunting from submissions from the top. But, I think my guard is my best weapon, especially my best weapon that's under the radar. I think all the other things are really amplified. My passing style is something that constantly I see people breaking down or talking about, but my guard play is something that I don't see as much, and I think it's a big weapon of mine.
That's awesome. And the foundation for most jujitsu practitioners as they start out. So a great example of that. And then just a couple of quick rapid fire ones that you can either give short or long answers as you so desire. So gi or no?
No gi.
Excellent. Favorite cheat meal after a tournament?
Cheeseburgers, probably. I would say cheeseburgers, specifically like a fast food cheeseburger. So it's really bad.
Just the worst possible one.
Yeah, the worst for you.
What's one submission you wish you could apply and that no one could escape from?
Being short, probably like a buggy choke, something like that. I think that'd be good to have my repertoire. I feel like if I get a triangle locked or I get a Darce choke lock, even though I might not have the longest arms or legs, I can finish and I have a good squeeze from there. But buggy choke's one I almost just can't get into.
It's a biological difference at that point, right?
Yeah, it sure feels like it.
And then last one, what's your go-to track in the bullpen?
It all depends. It literally changes every single time. I try and, you always feel before every match I've competed so much, I never feel the same. I can never, even if I want to make myself feel a certain way, I can never do it the same way. It could be something that's really hard. It could be rap, could be rock. It could be something pretty mellow as far as like not necessarily classical music. It could be jazz music. It could be some slow, something rhythmic, something electronic. It all changes. So I think it just depends on my mood.
That's awesome. And then just wrapping up, is there any place that fans could follow you or find you on the internet or check out your gyms in Toledo?
Yeah, so Dante Leon JJ, that's my Instagram page. It's where I'm most active on social media. I also have a gym in Toledo, Ohio, and Perrysburg, Ohio, Adamus Jiu-Jitsu. You can find that on my Instagram as well. We're linked to each other's pages, Adamus Jiu-Jitsu Toledo. And like always, like the invite's always open. Anybody who wants to come train, you're more than welcome to come visit. You're more than welcome to drop in and train. Anybody in the Patago affiliation is affiliated with me. Obviously, you train for free, stay as long as you want. But anybody else who's looking to train, like I said, on Instagram, either the gym's page or my page, just shout out, give me a direct message, and we'll get it going.